All right, thank you for staying with us. If you are just joining, you're watching Daybreak on Trust Television, and you can always watch us live on YouTube. Time for us to take a look at the next discussion on the program. The Central Bank of Nigeria has pegged the maximum of over-the-counter cash withdrawal for per week for individuals at 100,000 naira and 500,000 naira or corporate organizations. The Apex Bank also limited individual point of service to 20,000 naira per day. Now, this is contained in a circular by the CBN and addressed to all deposit money banks and other financial institutions, banks, primary mortgage banks, and microfinance banks. Now, the circular, which was signed by the Director of Banking Supervision, Haruna Mustafa, further stated that the maximum cash withdrawal per week via automated teller machine ATM shall be 100,000 naira, subject to a maximum of 20,000 naira cash withdrawal per day. Now, we'll be taking perspectives on this, and we have joining us financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed, who joins us virtually from Lagos to give perspectives to this. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Mukhtar.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, welcome to the show. All right, now, well, let's get your initial reaction to this. A lot of Nigerians are applauding the central bank. It looks like the CBN is really committed to reforming the monetary circulation in the country. First, we've seen the redesign, and then following it up with this new policy. What's your initial reaction?
My initial reaction is good. We are trying to go cashless. We cannot be separated from the global economy. Economy all over the world have gone cashless, and also we need to attract investors. We need to attract businesses to grow, and we need to practice best global best practices, which is cashless. For me, that's excuse me, that's the good news. And again, it's not that these have not been there. So what we've just seen the reduction in the limit. We used to have 500,000 for individuals. Now we've brought it back to 100,000, and it's going to be 100,000 per week. It used to be 500,000 maybe per day, but now it's going to be 100,000 per week. And so that's the difference. We've seen the reducing the limit whereby you can withdraw cash. And again, if you want to go further before that, also there was still the same penalty of 5%, 10%. So it's still there. What we've seen also, we've seen ATM come down from a limit of about 130,000 or between 130 and 150 to just 100,000 per week, and not just in one withdrawal. You have to do it for 5 withdrawals to even be able to withdraw 100,000. So what we've seen is the same, but we've seen a reduction in the limit. And so what the CBN is trying to do is to get more Nigeria into the cashless bracket.
All right, Mukhtar. Going cashless, a lot of people have applauded that. However, some persons are saying that the time limit, January 9, is a bit too short between now and that time. For some persons are still unbanked at the moment.
Well, you know, with Nigerian, if you give them 6 months from now, we'll still be dragging our feet back. I remember that when the cashless policy started, it started in states like Lagos and Abuja, and other states were giving long time. Even after they were giving those times, they still complained. It started. So definitely we still seem that I also of the opinion that the time is short. I expect the CBN to see how they can maybe extend the time, maybe with time. But again, it's not just extension in the terms of that you want to cope with a cashless system. I think that's, for me, that's my worry, because even now, whereby we are not fully cashless, we have a lot of issues that has to do with payment. maybe money you put in your ATM, money is not dispensed to you, and at the end of the day you are debited, and it takes you 7 working days to get your money back. So those are part of the challenges that I think the CBN should put their house in order, working in close conjunction with the banking committee to make sure that they are able to achieve seamless cash policy. Because if somebody has only 20,000 naira and he wants to do a transaction to withdraw that 20,000 naira, and that the ATM cannot dispense that 20,000 naira, and the person may have to wait for 7 working days, and that might just be his last cash. I think that's my major challenge.
All right, now we're going to come back to the issues of the demerits of this, but I want us to talk about the merits of this. To what extent do you think that this could curb inflation rates and perhaps the value of the naira?
Well, good question. Inflation rate definitely is going to help. One of the tools that every CBN all over the world use to monitor and also to reduce inflation is mopping up of cash liquidity in the system. And so with the cashless policy, I think that will reduce cash liquidity in the system. And definitely that will help bring down inflation. With the value of the naira, it's all about demand and supply. It's also all about earnings. You earn more dollars, then or how much dollars do you earn into the system? Because when supply is being met, and then it will be a challenge, then the naira and the dollar would definitely take their point. But when demand is high and supply is not being met, definitely the economic terms of demand and supply will come to play. But again, with Nigeria, it's a peculiar situation why the naira have suffered the way it has suffered thus far, because most of the money that are actually pursuing the dollar, the naira is using to pursue the dollar, and that is making the dollar to go up. It's not in the banking space. So what it means now going forward is that with an exchange rate, if you look at the bureau de change of 740 naira to the dollar, you cannot even do $200 in an instance, so you need to go to the banking space, and that it means that all bureau de change transaction will also need to go into the banking space. So definitely at the end of the day, some of these funds that are illicit funds that have been gotten through banditry, criminality, and also corruption, will be difficult for them to find their way into the deposits of all this bureau de change, and then in turn you will now want to get naira. But again, with this policy, remember, they didn't put a limit on how much you can deposit. They're only looking at withdrawal. They are not looking at deposit thus far. So maybe they want to use the withdrawal later on will come to the deposit, because that also is a policy that's already in there.
So do you think that this policy is going to help in any way to check crime?
Definitely. I think for me, the main reason for this policy, I think, is all about checking crime. Because when you remember, when you listen to people that have been involved in people that were families that got their family members out of the den of kidnappers or terrorists, there was a lot ransom that was paid to release them, and this money was gotten from the banking space. So, but that comes with advantage and comes with disadvantage, because when you've heard some of these people that they were victims, they tell you that even the security agencies sometimes encourage them to pay this cash so that they can get their relative back. So definitely it may endanger the lives of some Nigerians, especially those that ransom must be paid. But again, in the long run, it could begin to reduce the crime rate in the country, especially when it comes to payment of ransom. And also must forget that money laundering also, because sometimes if you look at some of the cases of corruption that have been involved, you realize that a lot of cash were being given to people. If you look at the EFCC report, you realize that a lot of cash change hands when it comes to corruptions. And so what will happen? We could also use that to address some of our problems that have to do with corruption, that have to do with money laundering, and also with banditry and terrorism.
All right. So when we look at this, let's talk about revenue mobilization here now in the area of expanding the tax net. Is this something that we could count as a move that could help in expanding the tax net?
Well, it's like I said, in Nigeria, everything is multidimensional. You have multidimensional poverty, you have multidimensional ways in doing your monetary policy. So definitely, but it also might help. But again, the problem we have with when you widen the bracket is more or less going after those that were already paying tax, not even bringing in more people into the tax bracket. Because again, when it comes to tax, it's not all about how much comes into my account, it's how much revenue I'm able to make. So definitely, I think it could help. But again, it could be challenging in terms of, is this cash just all about business, or is it just a cash that is for revenue? Nigerian that is above 18 to have a tax pin. And I'm sure that also might be something that they will be working in, but that has been mostly implemented in businesses, not for individuals.
Okay, because I am looking at the fact that because of this now, more people will be looking to have accounts. More people, it will now promote financial inclusion like we've always tried to achieve. And by the time you have more people having accounts, then perhaps maybe through certain deductions, government will be able to mobilize more funds. Don't you think so?
Well, you need to look at who are those people that are actually taxpayers. They are the formal sector, and most of them are already paying tax, and most of them also already doing cashless policy. But like you said about financial inclusion, is the informal sector, and this is one sector that they've not been able to bring into the cash bracket, either because of most of their transactions are done in cash, or also because there's no infrastructure even to be able to get them. So it could help bring in the informal sector. But when you talk of financial inclusion, it could be a very difficult thing. Remember that we came up with the POS terminals in the rural area. We also came up with paying through payment agents, through the banking payment agent. So this also could hinder the progress in those areas, because what you have in those areas are POS terminals, and what you have in those areas are payment agents. And some of them, like the people in the rural area, let's talk about a farmer that is going to buy product. He wants to go with cash about 100 or 200,000, which is not much. He wants, with the current rate of inflation in the country, that could not even give him much to buy in terms of his farm product. And so definitely, I have the opinion that the CBN really need to look at it critically and see how they can make it a little bit flexible, especially for people in the rural areas.
All right, apart from that, the POS operators, how are they going to go about this? Because, I mean, sometimes you go to the market and you want to buy something, the POS guy comes and then he gives you money. And then he does that for a lot of other people. Now, the highest that POS guy can do is 20,000. So how can that business be sustained under this policy?
That's why I'm saying that it's all about killing those business. I say the way it is, those businesses might eventually not be able to survive. And that is why if you listen to the news, the POS terminals, people are the first to complain about it, because they are the ones that really service the rural area, the non-banking, that want to include financial inclusion to them. Remember that the POS terminal man is not that he's taking that cash, he has those cash in the bank, he's just linked to his POS so that he can do payment. And there's a minimum to what they can do. So I think the CBN need to look at this, especially when you are talking about financial inclusion. And again, in terms of infrastructure, how many banks have this infrastructure in the rural area? So for me, I think they need to look at that, because otherwise you may just kill a sector that is beginning to provide job for Nigerians.
Well, okay. There are some persons that say it was the discovery, when the CBN came up with the redesigning of the NAIRA, it now discovered, I mean, we all saw how much was being taken to the bank on a daily basis. We now saw pictures of some monies that had even gone bad because people kept them in their homes. So there are some persons that are saying it was that discovery by the CBN that caused them to roll out this policy without actually putting in place some of those things that you've talked about.
Well, it could be, but like I said, they've not stopped anybody from depositing. I mean, or if you look at the policy have not said, and it has been silent in terms of deposit. Before now, there's a certain amount of cash you deposit in the bank when you bring it, and if you deposit above the amount, you have to pay penalty. And I think that still stands. The CBN have not reduced the numbers of deposit that individuals can bring into the banking space. What they are reducing is what you can take out of the banking space. And so I think with that, you can't say, I don't think they have stopped that, because if you do that again, you now attract people to bring in those notes and to bring in those notes to get the new notes. And also you could also use that to fuel the exchange rate, because a lot of people will now decide to be pursuing the bureau de change also and finding a way to, so it could be chaotic for the economy. I think they are still accepting deposit in cash, but it comes with a penalty depending on the amount.
Okay, let's talk about cost of printing this cash. Is that a factor that is being considered here? With the redesigning, we've seen the changes in color of the currency, and now we are seeing, that there won't be too many currencies in circulation, in particular the 1,000 and 500 Naira notes. So do you think that this could cut down on the cost of printing this cash?
Exactly, it will. I think that's another thing the CBN is looking at when you talk about not only because of the cost of printing these cards, also when you talk about destroying some of this currency that are also bad, it comes with a lot of cost to the CBN. And sometimes we've seen issues whereby these currencies are supposed to be bound and individuals take it to their personal, to make it use of it personally, take it back to the bank to get the new rate. So I think also it's something that the CBN also must have also looked at. It will reduce the cost in terms of cost of cash handling and also printing of new notes. That's the whole idea of cashless policy, to reduce costs both for the CBN and also for the banks.
All right.
Okay.
With what has happened, do you foresee a situation where Nigerians will start rushing to the bank to withdraw this money and keep at home again?
It will be difficult, because when you are withdrawing that money, unless you are asking for 100 Naira notes, you know that the old Naira note seems to cease to be a legal tender by 31st of maybe 30th or 31st of January. And they are saying this policy will take effect from 9th of January. So
but the new notes will come into effect on the 15th.
Well, yeah, the new note
So
will come into
15th,
effect on the 15th.
People could start panic withdrawal, as it were.
Yes, exactly. Especially during the festivity period, we could see that, because a lot of transactions will be done through cash, because you are not going to the market, especially if you are buying ram or you are buying cow for Christmas festivity. You won't go there and tell the man that you want to transfer it to his account. He wants to collect his cash. Yes, it could cause panic in the system, but what I'm saying is that keeping those new notes at home. Remember also, the CBN have looked at it. That's why they said that you can only withdraw 100,000 Naira.
Okay. All right. How do you see this affecting the elections? We're approaching general elections in February 2023. So how is this going to impact on the issues of vote buying?
And for me, so a lot of people are saying that the main reason for this policy could be to stop politicians from doing vote buying, which I can't but agree with them, because it's going to put them in a very, very difficult situation, especially in the area of vote buying. And I remember that vote buyings are also perpetrated in the polling booth. They are not perpetrated outside the polling booth, unless you are beginning to tell somebody, okay, give me your account number, let me transfer to you, and the man will have to wait until he gets the alert before. But politicians are also, as you are doing your own, they are also looking at means to beat the system also. But in the long run, I think it's going to help in the area of vote buying, because it's not going to be as seamless as it is, knowing fully well that the ordinary Nigerians, especially those that are being cajoled towards with cash for vote buying are those that actually want to handle their cash in their hand rather than see their cash sit in their bank account. So definitely, it will help in coping vote buying.
So how, and also for those who want to spray money during weddings and all of that, how are they going to manage?
Well, if CBN, if you watch CBN, have been campaigning against spraying money during parties, and I think now they are beginning to use their tool or administrative tool to cope against that, because again you see a lot of people selling this currency, especially in Lagos, in traffic, new notes for people that wants to spray it during parties. But remember, they said 100,000 in a week, and so a lot of people will come up with it, because what you do is I don't want to give things. You could see people beginning to transfer 100,000 into various people's accounts and tell them to withdraw those 100,000, and they collect it cash. So it's gonna be tough, because like I said, as you are planning, those people that want to beat the system also are planning.
Yeah, true. Now, are you worried about how this could put pressure on the electronic banking system, and how can we boost that area to at least reduce and manage better the cases where people make transactions and it's failing because of network and the rest of them? How can we better manage that?
I think that's a major challenge. For me, that's a major challenge. And I thought before the CBN would have come up with policy, they would have sat down with the banking committee to see how they can help them improve infrastructure in this area, because definitely some of the ATM are not modern type of ATMs. And though we have some modern type of ATM, they are not spread widely all over Nigeria. Some of those ATM, the modern type of ATM, are only seen in places like Lagos and Abuja, and maybe Port Harcourt, and maybe Kano, but other small cities like Sokoto, Oshun, and all those places, they don't have this modern ATM, and they also seems to be the one that suffered most of these payment issues. So I expect that CBN will have to work, but like you rightly pointed out, the time is short for them to begin to deploy modern ATM machines, and that also will also come with the cost for the banks. So who is going to bear the cost? Do they have the resources to bear the cost in the short term? But in the long term, the banks also are going to benefit, because if you reduce the number of people that come to the banking hall, it also will reduce the manpower of people that the banks are going to employ, and also at the end of the day, to help their bottom line in the long run. But in the short term, they need to begin to see how they can deploy those modern ATMs that will work. Remember that we even have ATM that are working without network. So maybe they need to improve on that and put those in the rural area. So those are part of the challenges. How soon can they begin to deploy these modern ATM machines? Now we even have some ATM that they are cardless. You don't need to come with your card. You just come with your fingerprint or your face, your face. So they have to work on that.
All right. All right, thank you so much for joining us, Mukhtar Mohammed, financial analyst. We appreciate you joining us on Daybreak this morning and giving us more insight on this new cashless policy. In fact, I will call it by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you.
A pleasure. Have a great day.